Rich.
Well, I
Okay,
don't think that I do. And
Gotta behave.
you and I do.
okay. Well, thank you both for agreeing to come and chat with me. I'm so happy to see you. And just would like to say this is such a great opportunity. I think libraries, first of all, are more than just a collection of books. I think of libraries as a community, and certainly that's what we have in East Lyme. It's a community that I love to go to the library. It's one of my favorite places in town. So Lisa, would you, or Dave, who would like to go first? Who would like to say who you are? What do you do?
Lisa, you go first.
I'll go first. I'm the director of the East Lyme Public Library. I've been the director since 2012, I think, so going on 8 years, and in July. And I was the assistant director for 9 years before that. So I've been associated with the library for quite some time now.
Lovely.
You were the assistant director for 9 years?
I was assistant director for 9 years.
I didn't realize it was that long.
And going on director for 9, so half and half.
Oh.
It's been a while, Dave. Time's passed.
Yeah.
And you don't look a day older, Lisa.
Yeah, that's because you're seeing me over a computer screen. But as I usually say, I have the honor of running the East Lyme Public Library because I love my job and I love this community. It's such a great thing to be able to be part of. And I really appreciate you doing this chat because the biggest problem, or not problem, but challenge any public library has is getting the word out about what we have. As we tell people what we have, they're always like, oh, I didn't know you. And no matter how much we advertise or whatnot, we're always looking for new ways to connect. So thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. And I always feel smarter whenever I talk to a librarian. So, and is that your background? Are you a librarian? I'm making an assumption here.
Yes.
Maybe that's not correct.
I have 2 master's degrees. One's in library science, and the other one is in education and administration. I actually have a master's degree in educational leadership.
Oh, wonderful.
And my undergraduate degree was in microbiology and epidemiology, which until recently hasn't been terribly useful, but it does give me a good perspective.
It is. Wow, we need you.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
And my husband.
Lisa didn't tell you what her biggest achievement in college was, though.
Tell me.
What was this?
She was a great intercollegiate swimmer.
Oh, wow.
I was a mediocre college swimmer.
No, I say you
I was a varsity athlete. Yes,
college swimmer.
And where did you go to school, Lisa?
I did my undergraduate at Smith College, and then I did my graduate degrees at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana.
Nice. Very good. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for that. I feel like I know you better already. I didn't realize you had that scientific background before you.
Yes, I'm a scientist at heart.
Oh, nice. And my husband's a scientist. Okay. Dave.
You'll never get a job at the Trump administration with that background.
Oh.
Okay, come on, Dave. Let me hear about you.
Well,
I know you can tell me something about you I don't already know.
Let's see. I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering from the University of Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
And like Lisa, I have 2 master's degrees, but they're both in engineering. One's in transportation engineering and the other is in civil engineering.
Oh.
The reason I got 2 master's degrees was because I just gotten out of the Navy, and I had GI Bill eligibility. So after I got my first master's degree, my wife at the time said, you can go back and get another one for free. You still have GI Bill eligibility. So I said, yeah, why not? If I can get it for free, why not?
Absolutely.
So one was from NYU. I was living in New York then. One was from NYU, and the other was from Columbia.
Nice. Very good.
PhD from UConn.
Oh, so we should.
PhD was also in civil engineering.
We should call you Dr. Jacobs then.
No, don't.
She's not, right? Okay.
It's a well-kept secret.
Oh, see, we already know more.
So well kept it. Dave, did you finish the PhD?
Well, I'm defending in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
Okay. Are you serious?
So,
are you serious?
I'll say I'm done.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I went back to get my PhD after I retired.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. Wow.
I'll hold that for about 3 more weeks.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, we'll have to celebrate. We'll have a remote Zoom party.
But like Lisa, I've been associated with the library since about 1812.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
A long time.
That's a long time. Okay, so I know we could just chit chat and carry on back and forth with jibes and jarbs and all kinds of things. But tell me, what's been going on at the library since the middle of March? I know it just hasn't been
It
completely.
hasn't been the same.
No,
No,
hasn't
but
been
we've
the
been doing
same.
quite a bit. We are providing a lot of online resources. I've taken some of the print book money and moved that into ebooks, and those have kind of taken off. Obviously, people are checking those out quite a bit more. We've moved some of our programs online. Our book discussions and our story times with the children have been particularly successful. We're still reviewing books, but we haven't been able to order any physical books. We actually just started doing that 2 days ago. And we've put in a large order of children's books for the summer so we can support the summer reading program.
Nice.
And what else? We set up the story walk in the Pritz Park down at Bridebrook.
Yes.
And if, for those who are not aware of what that is, the story walk is stations set probably about 20 yards apart. And it's a children's book with copies, and the kids with their parents can walk from station to station and read a few pages of the book. And that way they're getting both exercise and being able to read.
So they're
we just launched
exercising
that.
their mind and their body at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
Lisa,
Nice.
mention the activities that Tara and Rebecca have been doing, the book discussion and.
Yeah, Tara and I
Rebecca-
have been leading our book discussions online. We've done that for 2 months now. Tara does a mystery discussion every Thursday, the last Thursday of every month. I do just a general book discussion the second Tuesday, which I've done for about 14 years now. And so we've been reading. We read a variety of books, usually things that you can find on the bestseller list, and occasionally some classics. We meet and second Tuesday of every month and just have a general discussion, which sometimes veers off topic, but we try not to.
Lisa, is that at 7 p.m.?
7 p.m. second Tuesday of the month.
And then how would we get on that? Just go to the library? Is there a Zoom link, or how does that work?
Yeah, a few days before, the library social media, the Facebook page,
Okay.
will advertise the link. We use GoToMeeting instead of Zoom. That's been successful for us. And we will post the book ahead of time. We've been doing that. This month we're reading Eric Larson's The Splendid and the Vile, about Churchill's leadership during the bombing of London during World War II.
Oh.
And that's sort of a companion to a book called Clementine, which we read a few months ago, that was one of the first books written about Mrs. Churchill. She was a major figure in World War II, as significant as Eleanor Roosevelt. And this is the first biography that had been written about her. So we're now reading about Churchill himself.
Nice, very nice. Well, and his leadership.
Tell Kate about Rebecca's programs too.
Rebecca is doing online story times for children, and she does those every day.
Rebecca's our head children's librarian.
Right.
Rebecca Skotka is our children's librarian.
And
She's
she's a
doing the
storyteller.
online story times. She was featured in the Hartford Courant for her success in being able to do that. And she's got a tremendous number of views. The kids that come to her story time are still logging in on a regular basis to have contact with her and to read, so she can read the stories and do that. And she's just been amazing.
She's amazing with children. You should see her, Kate. Log on to one of her programs. She has an amazing rapport with little kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've actually been to her story time. I was in Birth to Three for a while, and I would go with the mother and sit in with the under 3-year-old and help facilitate her participation in this case with Rebecca. What is Rebecca's last name?
Skotka.
Skotka. Okay.
Skotka. She's also become fairly well known for a reading group she's doing called the Next Chapter Book Club. And that's a book club for people who have learning disabilities. And she's one of the few we have one of the few programs that she runs in this area of the state where people with reading disabilities can come in and read out loud. We provide special tablets for people who can't hold books, and that meets weekly on Fridays.
You guys do way more than I'm even aware of, so thank you for this. I feel like
that's all Rebecca. She's done a wonderful job.
Just very creative. Yesterday, I had a Zoom meeting with Kathleen Stauffer from ARC of Eastern Connecticut and Scott Cady. He's the IT guy, Chief Information Officer, I think is what he referred to himself as. So the two of them, and I shared with you their activity page this morning, Lisa.
Yes.
And just
I saw that.
amazing. Yeah. Just amazing, wonderful resource. I started with you too, Dave, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, just amazing, wonderful resources. And a lot of those are things that you can do. And during this time when kids aren't able to physically go to school, it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I've emailed my staff. They're going to send information to you about putting our storybook trail on that resource page.
Nice.
And we're going ahead and publicizing what you sent us.
Oh, good. Very good. I'm happy about that. Yeah. So you've been closed for 2 months and you've been doing some remote things. I also saw something I thought was interesting, that Tara is going to be doing an arts or craft kind of program.
She's been doing a crafting at home program on Fridays.
Okay.
She's thinking of moving the day. She was doing a series of them and they ended today, I believe. She's going to start that series again, but she may move it to a different day for the summer. She's working on realigning that, but yes, we've had a crafting program.
Okay, good. And Dave, you've been, you said, involved with the library since the 1800s, but
Just seems that way.
oh, it just seems that way. So what kinds of things do you do for the library, Dave? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I served on the board of directors of the library, board of trustees, we're actually called.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my third term as president of the board of trustees. We had term limits, so after 3 years as president, I got off and was reelected for another 3 years. Now I'm into my third. I'm like the FDR of the library, I guess. But I have to tell you how I was invited to join the board of trustees originally, about 20 years, literally about 20 years ago. As you might know from the DTC, I served 2 terms on the board of finance, and the second time I ran for the first time I ran for re-election on the board of finance, I had a small campaign fund, a couple of $100, not a lot, and I had a few dollars left over. And under the state election law, there are very specific guidelines for what you can do, as you'll find out, what you can do with excess funds in your campaign account. So I decided I'm going to give it to the library, because I've always loved the library. So I gave it to Bill DeKine was president at the time. And so I gave him my excess funds from the campaign to the library. And Bill DeKine, who was the executive director at the time, invited me to join the board of trustees.
Oh, there you go.
From that. So that's how I happened to get on the board of trustees. But I've been president now of the board for, I guess this is the second year of my third term or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. You're not really so much involved with the day-to-day operation.
No, that's the executive director's job. But, you know, the board of trustees, whether it's a for-profit business or a non-profit, I'm also on the board of the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra.
Lovely.
The point is that what the board of directors does is give overall policy guidance. And if you're a good board and a good president of the board, you give that guidance to the executive director and then keep your hands off. Don't micromanage. If you don't have that much confidence in the executive director and his or her staff, then get another executive director. But we have tremendous confidence in Lisa and Tara and the rest of her staff. So we just give overall guidance and then step out of the way and let her do her job. And that's what any board should do, whether you're the board of General Motors or Microsoft or the East Lyme Public Library.
Nice. Very good. Well, I'm glad that you go ahead, Lisa.
I should mention Dave was awarded the trustee of this year award by the state library boards
Nice.
last year. So I just wanted to mention that.
I won't say
for his service, his almost 3 decades of service to public libraries.
Oh,
so he won a statewide award for his involvement in our library and everything he's done for it.
Well, I think that libraries are like technology. It just levels the playing field. So if you don't have a book available to you at home, then it's where you can go to get the information. Absolutely. Right? It's where you can acquire knowledge, acquire information, and just kind of have what you wouldn't have otherwise. When my daughter turned 3, she actually, it was shortly after she turned 3, she learned how to write her name. And I said to her, now, Emily, we can go get you a library card. So that was exactly what we did. We went to the library and her first library card.
Was here in East Lyme?
No, this was back in Nebraska, Lincoln,
Oh.
Nebraska. Yeah, a couple years ago. So pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me more. I guess you guys are going to have a reopening, grand reopening on Tuesday, but it's kind of with a twist. How is that going to work?
We're not opening the building. Let me be
step one of the reopening.
Step one.
I don't know, Lisa, you want to go ahead or should I?
What we're going to do is provide curbside service. We're not reopening the building. It's too early to do that. But we're going to, on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, open up the phone lines, and we have an online form, and you can request up to 5 items. We will retrieve them for you and bring them out to the parking lot when you drive up.
Nice.
And let you take out, start using the collection again. We are using gloves and masks in the building to try to keep any kind of contagion down. And any books that are getting returned are being quarantined for 72 hours to make sure that any germs that come into the building on the books don't go back out. So we've spent the past 2 weeks setting up a system we think will work. We hope will work. We're trying to figure out every step to take. And we're really excited about that. We've spent the past few days training the staff and just talking about how this will work. And we've been advertising it to the public. In the past few days.
Let me interject just so you understand. We're not the only library doing that. A lot of other libraries, roughly our size, are initiating the same policy at about the same, not necessarily simultaneously, but within the same time period. They'll be doing something similar.
Yeah, we're a little bit on the earlier side. Waterford did it slightly earlier than we did, but we're ahead of several of the bigger libraries in the state. And we just felt next Tuesday was the right time.
This opening procedure that Lisa was talking about was approved by Mark Nixon and the town. Public health officials in the state have approved this procedure. So it's everything's above board.
Well, it sounds great. You just miss the library. Like I said before, it's the community, and it's seeing the librarians, it's seeing the books, it's seeing your friends, it's being there. So it's kind of a circle drive. How are you going to configure this? Or do I just have to wait until Tuesday to go and see?
Parks and Rec is selling beach passes on the youth center side of the community center. We'll be directing people to the senior center side of the parking lot, and you'll park there and call us and let us know that you're in the parking lot. We'll bring the books out to the benches in the front, and then you can retrieve them after we've walked away so that it's a contactless pickup.
I get it.
And so
it's not just books. I mean, you can also order
DVDs, magazines, everything but museum passes. We're not circulating museum passes because a lot of the museums aren't open still.
Right.
But any other item you can certainly pick up at this time. Anything that we have in our collection, we're not getting items from other Lion libraries at this point because that's not possible. But it's limited to what's in the East Lyme building. And there's a special link on our webpage that you can click on to find out what we have.
Now, do you need anything for this to happen seamlessly? Do you need face masks or?
We have enough masks, gloves, and cleaning supplies to get started, and we're assuming that we'll be able to acquire what we need. But we're all set for at least 2 weeks, if not 3.
How about paper bags? Do we have enough paper bags?
You need paper bags.
We have 500 paper bags. We have a box of masks, 3 boxes of gloves. We've made some masks, and the town brought by some cleaning supplies.
Oh, good.
We're only having half the staff in each day. We're alternating. We have a team A and a team B, and we're alternating people in so that they'll be more than 6 feet apart most of the day, wearing a mask and staying out of each other's way.
Oh, good.
And we've made the hours a little bit longer. We're going to stay open until 7 because it is, light out, and we have a few more hours to sort of coordinate with the public to pick up books. We usually close at 5 or 6, but we're going to stay open, at least 10 to 7 to see that we can meet the need or the demand and then adjust accordingly.
I'm guessing, and we'll find out shortly, but I'm guessing this is going to be a very popular service. I think Lisa's staff will be very busy. I'm projecting that. I don't really know. We'll find out, but I think it's going to be very busy activity.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I'm just wondering what's going to happen if the weather isn't great during inclement weather.
There's an awning now in front of the community center, and we're we're adjusting a way to keep the books dry. We're not going to put them out in the rain. That's not what we do.
No, of course not. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to start doing that, but no museum passes. And
No.
as far as like phase 2 opening, we'll deal with that when that comes down the road. We'll have.
Yes. Now that I'm not sure if you're aware, we were approved for funding to replace the carpeting in the library this year. The carpeting is the original carpeting from 30 years ago, and it's threadbare in places. So we've been working on getting that replaced while we're closed. And depending on how far along that is, that may help determine when we open as well. We didn't do a deep clean of the library because it wouldn't make sense to clean the library and then rip the carpets up. So we haven't been able to do the deep cleaning that we want. We've done surface cleaning and to make it safe for the staff to come in, but we're coordinating a few different things here.
Mhm.
But we are hoping by the end of June, the middle of July, to open to the public. That's sort of the tentative date that the governor's given for public libraries, the end of June.
And have you been able to do anything as far as infrastructure with the computer and the technology within the buildings at all? Or has that not been an issue?
What do you mean by?
I mean, the number of computers that we have?
Well, the numbers of computers, and sometimes I just know across the school systems, sometimes there's dead zones and power, just bleeps in the system. You haven't had problems to that regard.
A few years ago, we had the problem in that we had some very, very old computers, things that weren't supported by Microsoft anymore. And we made a choice, I think it was 2016, to upgrade all of the computers. So they're now within 2 or 3 years old. And we have 6 new computers as part of our membership of Lion. We get a discounted price on those. And we rotate in 6 new computers a year. So for the most part, we're in very good shape technology-wise, and our Wi-Fi.
I'll tell you something interesting that a lot of people in town, I shouldn't say a lot, some people in town, many people in town do, because of our Wi-Fi, if they don't have good reception, internet connection at home, they'll drive into our parking lot and use our Wi-Fi.
Oh,
and
well, that
I'd
makes
like
sense.
to expand the range of our Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good.
So.
Let me see. We talked about the story walk, and I have to tell you, I did that with my husband the other day.
Great.
Yeah. And we took our dog, and it's a really nice path. And what is it? It's about a little more than a mile, or 3/4 of a mile, I think it was.
Yeah, about 3/4 a mile for the section where the story trail is.
Right, and that's kind of a hidden little gem in town. I'm not sure people really know about that.
And that's not new. That's been around for a while.
We put one up 2 years ago, but we made wood posts and it deteriorated pretty quickly. The one that went up last week is a newly designed one that should be weather resistant. So we should be able to use those stories over again. The ones that we had before, we had to just discard after we used them because they didn't age well. The ones we have now, we worked with a company in Old Saybrook to design something that will be a lot more robust and should be able to be reusable. And we'll just order different stories for a few years and then be able to recycle them through.
Nice. So. Have you ever thought about doing anything in conjunction with that, like an exercise, something on the other side for adults to do while the kids are looking at the stories, or little benches or things along the way? Is there a phase 2 of that project at all?
Before everything closed down, Parks and Rec was talking about on the other side of that path, putting some sort of meditation stations. They were working with someone else. We were working closely with Parks and Rec to install the story walk because it's obviously a Park and Rec territory. It's their park.
Right.
And so we work to keep our storybook on one side so that they might be able to expand onto something.
I was even thinking benches would be nice too, where you could sit and tell a story or read a story or that kind of thing along the way.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Perhaps we could do.
And I just go ahead, David. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention something else that we started. The library started just a couple of weeks ago. And again, this is not unique to the East Lyme Library. Other libraries, even major urban center libraries, have done this also. We started an archive where people in town can submit pictures, articles, newspaper articles, anything related to the coronavirus pandemic
Mm,
that pertains specifically to East Lyme.
mm.
And we're going to archive all that material so that years from now we'll have a good archival history, written and pictorial, of what East Lyme went through in the spring of 2020. And it's very easy to access. You just go to our website and there's a link to Pandemic Archives, I think it's called, or something like that. And you can submit, I've already submitted several photographs of the sign on the Dairy Queen that says closed because of, and the sign on the boardwalk about one-way traffic on the boardwalk for separation, things like that.
Well, yeah, that's great. And
That
my
50 years from now,
daughter,
people will get a laugh out of.
well, absolutely. My daughter and her husband moved home with their baby, who just turned 4 months old yesterday, and we were down along the shoreline, and the baby had never been to the beach. So here's my daughter with a big mask on her face, and the daughter, my granddaughter is kind of cuddled into her like one of those wraps that she wore, and it's just a sign of the times. Like, that would be a really nice thing to submit. Just
Yeah, if you have a picture, we'd love to include that.
Yeah.
We have a part-time staff member who is cutting out all of the articles in the day about East Lyme's journey with the virus and what's going on right now, and putting them into an Excel file. So we're organizing the history of what's happening.
The problem with an archives like that is this generation won't appreciate it. It'll be 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
From now. Your granddaughter will be the one who will really benefit from an archives like that.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Just such a different experience for
But
her.
we're living through it. So.
Yes, exactly.
And Kate, I should probably tell you, we're trying to do quite a bit more with putting a lot of the local history online and digitizing it. I applied for, just the other day, I signed on as a partner to a grant that's going out of Yukon to set up some, they're looking for funding for local cultural organizations to document their local history online. And I've signed the East Lyme Public Library up as a potential partner to get some of that funding so that we can move ahead with digitizing some of the collection of the local history.
Lisa, thank you for bringing that up. This is an initiative that the Board of Trustees started just recently, within the last 4 or 5 months, which I hope, because I'm very enthusiastic about it, making a major initiative of archiving local history for the town of East Lyme. As an example, a lot of the beach community, I live over in Crescent Beach, and the Crescent Beach Association, which is just a small beach community within East Lyme, of course, has a very extensive archival history of just Crescent Beach. And some of the other beach communities like Giants Neck Beach, Giants Neck Heights, Black Point Beach, Attawan, some of the other local communities have something similar, not quite as extensive as Crescent Beach, but they have their own local history. And what we're eventually would like to do is get all those collections so they're centrally located and can be properly and professionally archived and kept in the East Lyme Library for researchers or anybody who's just interested in local history. So this is somewhat of a long-term initiative, which kind of got sidelined because of the library being closed, of course. But as soon as we get back to some kind of normal activity, we're going to go forward with that. And I'll also add that the East Lyme Historic Society is already keeping a large portion of their archives, which is very extensive, on the history of the whole town of East Lyme in our library. We don't own it. It's not our collection. It belongs to the East Lyme Historic Society. But we're physically housing it for the East Lyme Historical Society. So that will sort of be the anchor of a larger history of local history of the town of East Lyme.
Well, it's amazing. Like, I never would have imagined that I would be ordering my food and not going to the grocery store, and just how my life has changed. And we've been doing a lot of planting of vegetables and things in our yard. So just taking advantage of what we can do so that we can minimize our risk. And I don't want to bring home anything, having my daughter and the baby here. So it's and we're living through this time. It's historic, even though we don't think of it necessarily that
No,
way.
you're absolutely right, Kate.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's pretty impressive. So what are some things that we should be aware of as far as at the local level? It sounds like you're getting some good support, like at the state level, things that we should know about as far as legislation or government. I'm afraid that libraries might be one of the first things that is going to be cut and not supported. Do you have fears of that at all?
At the moment, the recent budget process in town was good. We are whole for next year, and we should be in good shape for the short-term future. One of the frustrations we've had with the virus is at the state level. There hasn't been a lot of guidance on whether to close, whether to open, what to do. We've really had a push as librarians to say you need to include us in the plans to reopen. For example, they had all kinds of zoos were on the radar screen, and there's only how many zoos in Connecticut, but every town has a public library. So we had to really push to get the governor and his council to recognize that public libraries need to be, that we're important enough to be on that list of when to open. And we did make an appearance finally, suggesting June 20th is when we might be able to open to the public.
You know, there is some legislative help that we need, but this is more on the federal level. We need help from Congress, and maybe when this pandemic subsides a little bit, it's something that I think we ought to talk to Representative Courtney and Senator Blumenthal about regarding. Remember what we were talking about, Lisa, when
the
we
ebooks,
the Board of Finance with the
the ebook
books.
problem.
Yeah, but that's a federal issue.
That's
not
right, a federal issue. What happens is that ebooks are, libraries buy ebooks, they're charged a much higher rate than a person. If you go on Amazon, you buy an ebook, it's $20-something. Libraries buy the same book, it's $60, $70, and we can only use it 24 times, then we have to pay the $60, $70 again. We can't buy ebooks the same way that we buy print books. And so the waiting time for our ebooks is much, much longer than it is for print books. And that's been frustrating to us because in the past few years, we've seen more people using ebooks. Don't get me wrong, print books are still primarily 90% of what we do. They're not going anywhere, they're not going away. But the ebook genre has taken off quite a bit. People want to use them, but we can't afford to keep up because the publishers are charging libraries different prices than they're charging consumers. And so we've been working with ALA on the national level to try to address that.
This is a national issue that Congress has to get involved with, not the state legislature.
And actually, there was one publisher who
know about
refused
it,
to.
I mean, I wasn't aware that you were charged 3 times what we would pay for if we were to get an ebook.
To rent the book, not to own it, to rent it.
Right.
And that's through Lion, so it's all 30 libraries sharing that book.
Oh.
And there was one publisher that refused to sell to us. They tried to limit libraries from buying ebooks for the first 60 days that a book is published. During the pandemic, they've reversed course on that. They've finally seen reason in that libraries usually work in partnership with publishers because we are able to promote an author, a new author. The chatter among librarians, we usually are the first to know what might be a big hit, or we play a essential role in getting the word out about books.
From a legal standpoint, it's a lot more complicated because there are antitrust issues and things like that. That's why it's being, as Lisa mentioned, it's being handled now by the American Library Association, but it requires action by Congress, not any. It affects all 50 states, so it's nothing that our legislature can really do. It's
just good to know about, right?
Yeah, If you're not on the front lines, you don't know about it, but it impacts our budget.
Oh, absolutely, it does.
We
very much so.
Spend a lot more money on a lot fewer ebooks, and people who are trying to get ebooks have to wait much longer, and we have to constantly explain to them, we're ordering the books, we just can't we can't meet demand. We also have to do that through the consortium, the Lion Consortium. We don't do that individually. There's only one program, Overdrive, that public libraries can use to get ebooks. So we're kind of boxed in how we can do this.
It's an interesting problem, yeah.
Yes. Frustrating.
Go ahead.
Yeah, especially in times like this, when we haven't been able to buy print books for 2 months, so we have shifted some of the money into ebooks to try to meet the demand, but we can't meet that demand as well because the ebooks are so much more expensive for libraries.
One thing that I've been really interested in is just some of our local people, some of the people that I think of as local heroes. And I had an opportunity to meet Harry Danis. He's a 96-year-old gentleman who served in WW2 as at Iwo Jima, and was
Really?
able to meet up with him and have gotten to be friends with him since then. Now, is there any kind of initiative along that line at the library that I'm not aware of, where people are kind of recording histories of people? You talked a little bit about some historical work, Dave, but what about like living history or veterans stories and things like that?
A few years ago, I think 2 years ago now, we did a strategic plan. And one of the things that came up as a potential for the library to do is oral history, set up an oral history center. One of the things Dave mentioned that we'd like to do after this is over is do oral histories of people who had what their experiences were with the pandemic here in East Lyme. Another initiative is the history of the prison in town. It's a very overlooked history. That institution was quite significant when it opened 100 years ago. It was internationally known as being a progressive place for women and for helping women who were downfallen, for lack of a better word. And there's quite a few people who have oral histories in town that are interesting, that we need to capture that part of the history of our town too.
That would be good. Yeah, and Wally Lamb has done a beautiful job with.
Right. And I'm hoping if we get this grant, we'll be able to do all histories of all, the pandemic and some other things. Another initiative we're working on is historic houses in town. When we shut down, librarians had to start working from home, and two or three of them have been working on a database of historic properties in town. We have notebooks of these in the East Lyme room, but we don't have any kind of online archive. And currently there's a lot of really good mapping tools that you can use to sort of just zoom in on, sort of Google like on historic houses, and then you can click on a link and find out about those historic properties. And so we were just literally the week before we closed, we were working on that, and we've had to slow down, but we've been able to continue some of that at home in terms of figuring out the software that we would need and how we would do that.
Well, beautiful things that you have going, and it's just
unfortunately a lot of it is on hold until
that's the nature of the world. But we're doing what we can. We're doing everything we can behind the scenes.
Yeah. You're working. And how do you meet? Do you meet to go to meeting? Is that how you get together?
Yeah, the staff has had several go-to meetings. The executive board of trustees, the executive committee of the board of trustees has been meeting by Zoom weekly. Normally the board of trustees meets every other month, but during the crisis we've been meeting every week to just check in every Wednesday, so I can update them on what the library is doing and what we're anticipating in terms of trying to open and where we're going for the next year.
Okay, great. Well, how can we support you? What do we need to do to be better citizens in support of the work and services that you do?
Thank you for asking that. It's so refreshing. Just getting the word out about the services that we have, and just letting people know, word of mouth, that the library is a lot more than books, but we are still books. We do quite a bit of that. People are afraid books are going to go away. They're not going anywhere, but we do quite a bit of other things too. And that we're open to partnerships with people in the town if there's ways that they do want to work with us. The role of a public library is changing dramatically during what's now an information revolution. And rather than going away, we're actually becoming more central in some ways. And we're looking for partnerships with anyone in town who thinks that the library would play a good role in something that the town's trying to achieve.
By the way, Kate, just so you know, two people down at Town Hall, Camille, who's president of the chairman of the Board of Finance,
right,
and Mark Nickerson, our first selectman, I have to say both have been relatively supportive of the library. They
Good.
really have. They've been understanding of our issues, our problems, both budget in the budget area and our operating area. And I have no complaints with either of them. They've both been supportive, Mark and
yeah, I have to agree.
Camille. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, it's such a hyper-partisan time in our country. There's not a lot of partisan, there's general agreement that the library is important. Our effort is to try to let people know how much stuff we do. People are often surprised about the resources that we have. We didn't even talk about our online resources. We have several databases and quite a few things that people can log on to with their card to find thousands of videos, audio recordings, if you want to fix your car, we subscribe to Chilton's database. You can learn foreign languages. And we just are constantly trying to push out all of these things that we're doing. So that's why something like this is very helpful.
Okay. And what are some things that we can check out? Do you have puzzles that are available, games at all for children? Or
right now, the puzzles, games, and toys were sidelined because of the virus.
Right.
Books, paper is fairly safe. The DVDs and the things that we're circulating, we know that. So we're sticking on those. When we replace the carpet in the children's room, we're also planning on reconfiguring that a little bit. One of the things we wanted to put up was a nice train table and so a more space for interactive toys for kids. But all of that's going to have to be on hold until we're able to circulate things or have public things like that again.
But books from the children's library collection
Can definitely go out right now. Yep.
They're available.
Yep.
well, that's good.
Yeah, children and everything, books, large print, audio books, music, anything like that. Magazines, we have quite a few current magazines that have come in. We've been sending people in, just 1 or 2 people a day, to pull the mail and the magazines and catalog and keep all those collections up. So all of our magazines are available for people to check out.
Is there art that's available for checkout? Some libraries that I've been to will have pieces of art that you can borrow for.
No, we don't have a lot of room to store art right now. One of the biggest problems that was identified in our strategic plan was the lack of space in the community center. It's getting pretty tight in there. Our meeting rooms are used constantly, and we don't have room to store things like paintings or gardening tools or stuff like that, or for an extensive maker space. At some point, we need to find space for that. But again, that's on hold with the current situation. What we might do is take the back closed stacks where we have back magazines we don't use so much, and if we can afford to, we may try to switch that into a meeting room as well, because there's such demand for meeting rooms right now.
Well, our library is how many years old? I'm thinking
30?
I was going to say 30.
The community center is 30 years old.
So the town has grown a lot in the last 30 years. So what it was designed for was probably a different sized town than what we're currently living in, is what I'm imagining.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I found this quote when I was getting ready for meeting with you two, and it said, "Nothing is pleasanter," I'm not sure this is grammatically correct, "than exploring a library." And then here's one from, that was Walter Lander. And then the other one is, "The only thing that you absolutely have to know," do you know this quote? "Is the location of the library."
Right.
And then, do you know who said that?
No.
That was Einstein, right?
Yeah, Albert Einstein.
Dave, it was on our bookmark.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
You have the bookmark.
Yeah.
Oh, you have these on bookmarks. I know. Yeah.
Well, let me explain what I'm talking about. We send out an annual fundraiser for private funds for people to just make donations to the library, in addition to what the town gives us. And we're able to use some of that money for special projects or situations as they come up. For instance, we can use some of that money right now for extra ebooks, given the current situation. And the story walk was completely funded by the private money that we raised. But we send out an annual fund drive each summer, and we'll be getting ready to do that again this July.
Nice.
So,
well, I know
we had bookmarks with those, and one of the quotes we had on the bookmark was that quote.
So you're familiar. And one of the things that I'm aware of too is that you hang people's artworks in the lobby area, and the library is responsible for that. Yes, we coordinate the artwork that goes in the lobby. We also have a display case right as you come in the lobby on the left there. I've always noticed that. Yeah. That's for people to display different collections or different informational displays. When I first started working here, the demand for that was incredible. There was a 2-year waiting list to get that little case. And as far as I know, it's still a good 6 months. If you want to use that case, you have to contact us well ahead of time. Oh, that's interesting. Prime real estate in town. Prime real estate. Oh. Well, this has been really lovely, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we come to a close? I'd love to meet maybe with Tara and Rebecca and talk with them about their programs and what they're doing. But
Lisa, you know what we could do if Kate is interested? Maybe we could give her sort of a mini version of the tour that we gave the Board of Finance back in March.
Sure.
That was very effective.
Absolutely, behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of behind. We had just to fill you in, Kate, back in around middle of March, wasn't it? Around middle of March or
A few months
sometime,
ago,
I forget,
right?
around
Yeah.
the middle of March. We invited the entire board of finance, and Camille had her entire board come to the library. We had a nice we met in the East Lyme room, the conference room. We had a nice discussion, and we talked about a lot of things. And during that evening session, we took we provided a guided tour for the Board of Finance of areas that are generally not open to the public. Our tech services area, the archive room in the back that Lisa was talking about, possibly converting into a meeting room. Other spaces that the map collect. We didn't even mention that we have a map collection.
Nice.
So if you'd be interested, maybe we could arrange a similar tour just so you'll see parts of the library that physically aren't open to the public, but are interesting and impressive because you wouldn't know that they're there.
No, it sounds great. I would love to have that opportunity.
Okay.
Yep. And Kate, again, in a few weeks, it would be wonderful as school starts to end to have Rebecca on a situation like this where she can explain the summer reading, because she's really done a good job in terms of taking what she normally does and converting to most of it to an online format so that kids will still be able to do the summer reading. And we also have an adult reading program. We're sending information out about that with the books that we circulate starting next week.
Right, right.
That was a continuation of a program we had last summer.
Yeah, that we had last summer.
The adult program I'm talking about, which was,
right.
I thought, very.
The kids read about 3,000 books and the adults read about 300. So,
we're not keeping up. I guess
we've just launched that program, in fairness to the adults, but I thought it was wonderful that the kids beat us by 10-1 in terms of their summer reading.
I think I'm a little embarrassed by that, but
again, the word's not out with the adults. I think the adults just don't know. But I'd love to see a competition, a generational competition. I think it'd be good for the town.
Well, I know in Nebraska, we used to have a read together program where I would volunteer and I would go once a week, I believe, in the summer and read together with a group of young kids, and we would read the book together and have a nice discussion. So that was a really nice program.
Yeah, Rebecca's done that with some of the teen style council, she calls it, the older middle school students who come by on Fridays. She's trained them to do readings with some of the younger kids, so that more for them to get experience in working with little kids and reading to them and modeling for younger kids that it's important to read, so they get the big kids involved in doing it. Rebecca's had some success in doing that.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm on the board for a Connecticut Storytelling Center, which is another one of my passions, is telling stories and having people know. And we've been working towards getting more and more of those services and those programs online and available remotely. And it's a whole paradigm shift, and it's not an easy one to take. So
we'll come out of it better for it. It's hard now, but we'll come out of it stronger.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we're all going to be different after this is all done, right?
In a good way.
In a good way. Yeah, hopefully. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or say?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
I just wanted to thank you again for having this. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you
and
so much.
We'll arrange that tour that I was talking about for you, so you'll see the behind the scenes part of
anyone else
once the library opens up.
Oh yeah.
We used to do an open house every August. We won't do it this summer, obviously, but we like the special invitations like this if people come in who are interested.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
All right, Kate. Thank you for setting this up.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Both. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.